In my previous video, I did a budget-friendly recipe and asked if you wanted to see it as a series. Most of you said yes, which is amazing, so that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Making a chicken and corn soup today. This one's not your traditional chicken and corn soup. It doesn't have a cream base, but you can definitely add that if you wanted to. This one's more of a broth style, a little bit Asian style twist to it. It is really delicious, it's easy to make, and of course cheap. Before we get stuck in, just make sure you hit that like button, it really does help me out. And if you have a name for the series, I would love to hear it, so let me know in the comments below.
Starting out, we're going to remove both ends on 2 corn of the cobs. This is going to make it a lot easier to peel them. Remove the husks, any stringy parts, and if you don't want to use fresh corn or can't get it for some reason, you can use canned corn. I'll have details about that in the description. They are similar price though, so it doesn't really matter. The only thing I will say about this though is fresh corn is always going to taste better, so I do recommend it. Once you have that done, stand the corn up and then run a sharp knife down it to remove the kernels. If you don't want to do this standing up, you can lay it flat, but I do recommend taking off a little bit just so it can sit flat on the bench without it wobbling around. Then just trim off anything that you may have missed and just clean this up a little bit, and we're going to do this process with both corns. Next is 2 brown or yellow onions. Take off the tip, slice it in half through the root, and we can peel it, save all of the scraps for a stock. Make thin slices across, stopping at the root, then make that horizontal slice to break up the formation, and dice this into small to medium sized pieces. It doesn't have to be perfect, and make sure you trim off any excess flesh from around the root. Use the side of your knife to crush 6 cloves of garlic. This is going to break up the allicin compound, which is what gives garlic its strong flavour. Then roughly chop into small to medium sized pieces, and you can also grate it if you wanted to. Place a pan over a medium-high heat, add in 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and you can substitute that for butter if you wanted to. Add in all of the corn, make sure you scrape the bowl, pinch of salt, and a little bit of cracked black pepper, 10 cracks worth. Then mix this around and cook this for about 3 to 4 minutes, only until the outside of those kernels become a little bit charred. Doing this adds a really nice toasty, nutty flavour and a little bit smoky as well, and you should have something that looks like this. Remove it from the stovetop and transfer it to a bowl for the time being, and this same process applies if you're using canned corn. Just make sure you give it a rinse under cold water. Let's then place a pot over a medium-high heat. Add in 1 tablespoon of olive oil as well as 1 tablespoon or 14 grams of unsalted butter. Add in the onions and a pinch of salt, and we're going to saute this for about 6 to 7 minutes until the onions become translucent. They've softened up a little bit and taken on the slightest bit of colour, but keep them moving around every now and again, that way they won't burn. Add in the roughly chopped garlic or pasted garlic if you've done it that way, along with 1 teaspoon of dried oregano and 1 teaspoon of ground cumin. Continue mixing this around, cook this for 1 minute, allow those spices to toast, that garlic to get nice and fragrant, and again, keep it moving, that way nothing will burn. We're going to be poaching the chicken for this one. I'm using 2 small to medium sized chicken breasts that can be added straight on top of that onion and garlic. Then add in 2 liters of chicken stock or chicken broth. And I'm also adding in 1 tablespoon of sambal oelek, which is just a red chili paste. Don't have to add it if you don't like chili. Mix all of that through, allow those flavors to become friends, and we're going to bring this up to a boil. And like I said in the intro, this isn't your traditional chicken soup. It is more of a broth style. It is absolutely delicious though, and it's perfect for any occasion. Once it is at a boil, reduce the heat to low and then simmer for about 15 minutes until that chicken is cooked in the center. Once the chicken's cooked, remove it and place it into a bowl, allow it to drain, just let it sit for a couple of minutes, then we can start using some forks and tear this up and shred the chicken into pieces. If you don't want to cook the chicken like I have right here, you can also use a rotisserie chicken from the supermarket, one of those pre-cooked chickens. If you do that, just make sure there's no stuffing in it because it will ruin the flavor of the soup. Once that's all done, you should have something that looks like this. The chicken are in nice stringy pieces and not massive large chunks. Now next to go in is 2 cans of white beans. I've just rinsed these under cold water, and to start I'm only adding in 1 can's worth and then using a potato masher to break these up a little bit. Just adds a really nice texture. It kind of lightens the broth a little bit as well. And once you have that done, just add in the remaining whole beans. We don't need to crush these ones up. It's just a textural thing. You don't have to do it if you don't want to. With that in, give it all a mix through, you'll notice the broth lighten up a little bit. We're going to bring this up to a simmer and cook this for about 5 to 6 minutes. Once that's done, add in the chicken, along with all of that charred corn. Make sure you scrape the bowl, don't miss out on any of that flavour. Then mix all of this through, and we're going to bring this back up to a simmer again and cook for a final 2 to 3 minutes. This stage is about bringing the heat back into that chicken and corn, and I do recommend checking it for seasoning, adjusting if necessary. The salt levels were good for mine, so I just added a little bit more cracked black pepper. Mix all of that through. Like I said, cook it for about 2 to 3 minutes, and once you have that done, remove it from the stovetop. When it comes to serving, put it in bowls or mugs, however you like to eat your soup or broth. This recipe will serve 5 to 6 portions depending on size, but you probably don't need too much. It is actually quite filling, even though it might not look it. I like to garnish with a little bit of chopped flat leaf parsley, but you can add spring onions or scallions, and if you really wanted to, you could add some noodles to bulk it out a little bit. Hit it up with some cracked black pepper. Then to serve, I'm going to serve this with some toasted bread. Like I said, you can add noodles and you don't need the bread at all. And with that done, we have just made this chicken and corn soup. More of a broth style. It's not your traditional chicken and corn soup, but it looks and smells amazing. One last thing, this right here is the cost breakdown. I've worked out each individual ingredient, their weights, and then calculated the price based on that. And this is the total price as well as the price per portion.
As always though, there's only one thing left to do, and that is, of course, we can then dig in. Soups really are one of those dishes that's just extremely comfortable, whether it's a cold, rainy day like it is here, or if you're feeling a little bit under the weather. You can also place them in the freezer, make them ahead of time, and they're so easy to defrost as well. There is a lot of flavor going on in there, but it's so simple. It was easy to make, and of course, cheap. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.